Okay. Welcome to those of you joining us virtually and those of you present here at All Souls Unitarian Church of Indianapolis this morning. I'm Crystal Francis. I'm serving as your worship associate today. If you're visiting us this morning, we are really glad to have you here with us. We welcome you and invite you to bring with you this morning your whole self as you join us in worship. In a few moments, we will open our service with the reading of the covenant and lighting of the chalice. These rituals remind us to continually renew our promise, to live out our covenant, to put love into action, and to live out the community of love and justice we want to be. Our topic this morning is on becoming an elder. Again, welcome. Let us worship together.
Good morning, everyone. So if you look at the ends of your pews, you will see a green connection card. Please note that one thing that we are doing differently is we're putting a space to write the date on the card, which is helping us to be more green. We're not recycling unused cards every week. So when you do fill those out, please do remember to put the date. Our connection cards help maintain linkages between you and All Souls from Sunday to Sunday. They help you let us know about programs you're excited about and are interested in participating in, and maybe some that you're interested in that you don't see yet, as well as let us know of any pastoral care needs that you might have. So we do urge you to fill that out, whether you're a first-time visitor or a long-time member. A couple of events that I just want to keep on your radar this week. One of them is that, yes, we do, in fact, have 2 upcoming congregational meetings. One will be on May 15th, and that will be the day we vote on whether to call Reverend Katie. And then we will have our regular annual meeting on May 22nd. So I know that sometimes I'm going, wait, really, is that happening? And yes, it is. Another thing you might notice is that we initially had our annual rummage sale, which is back, huzzah, scheduled for May 21st. As we're starting to have more events back in the building again, we sometimes run into conflicts, so that's been moved to the weekend of June 10th and 11th. Lastly, on a bittersweet note, Joel's last Sunday with us will be June 26th. So I just suggest that now's a very good time to let him know how much his ministry has meant to you over the past few years, and to make sure that you're reading the order of service so that you're not missing any upcoming farewell events. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Joel Miller. I'm the interim minister, and so pleased to welcome you here this morning. I've been thinking about what it is to become an elder, how important elders were in my life. Maybe because I had a birthday recently, and I'm in my now 6th decade, my 60s, and has me thinking about what it is to be an elder. And I think it's a journey. It doesn't happen at one moment. And I realized recently that it's a journey, this becoming a mentor to others in life, to connecting with others. I was 27 years old. I was on the board of trustees of my home congregation, the First Unitarian Universalist Church in Columbus, Ohio. And the director of religious education, one of my beloved elders, Carol Brody, asked me if I would teach Sunday school. We called it Sunday school back in those days. We don't really call it that much anymore. So I'm trying to understand our different ways of describing what it is we do together on Sundays. Those days we called it Sunday school. And I was nervous, and she said, they're third graders. They're a great group of third graders. I couldn't think of anything more frightening. And it's not because there's anything inherently wrong with third graders or children or youth, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. I had lunch with one of my oldest friends, Dave, that week following when Carol asked me if I'd teach Sunday school. And he said, and he's a member of the Methodist Church. We'd become friends in kindergarten and we're still friends. He's this high-powered executive in a corporation. He deals with big things all the time. And I mentioned to him that the educator had asked if I'd teach Sunday school, and he said, you know what? I got the Christian educator at the Methodist Church just asked me if I would teach third grade. We kind of laughed a little bit at the coincidence of it. And he said, I'm really kind of scared. And I'm like, well, what is that? Why? And he said, do you think it's because we're in our 20s and we're businessmen? And then we realized, no, it's because actually we really wanted them to like us. It was as simple as that. We wanted to be good adults for them in their lives. After that first Sunday, that was a little scary. I just realized third graders, 27-year-old, and we had a lot to offer one another. We had a lot of fun together. A couple of years later, when I was ordained, those third graders participated. They weren't third graders anymore, they were like 12 at that point, and they participated in my ordination into Unitarian Universalist ministry. Although, I gotta say, two of the boys, they liked the moment when the congregation stood and said the words of ordination. They were standing, so I'm standing literally just about this kind of space in the church in Columbus, in the sanctuary, and at those doors, the entry doors, just like the ones here, they were open. And two of the boys were standing in there, right in the frame of the doorway. And at the moment the congregation was ordaining me, they were making faces at me and wiggling their butts at me. I knew they liked me. I've been grateful over the years for those relationships I've had with elders, with mentors, and as I'm coming to understand it, the opportunity I have to become an elder and understand what it is to mentor others. Let us now gather into worship. Gather with us and come with all you are. The parts of you that hurt, the parts laughing and happy, the parts wanting truth, wanting more. Join us. Open your heart just for this hour. Lay down your burdens, lift up your hopes, and in this hour, with some faces that are new and perhaps some that are familiar, and all that are welcoming you here, now in this moment, let us worship with all we are. Let us worship together. Welcome.
As Annalise Kinslow lights our chalice, please join me in reciting our covenant, which is on the wall behind us. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Good morning again. I really appreciated Reverend Joel's story. And I also just want to say, before I tell mine, that I am feeling such gratitude for eldership this morning, and in fact, for intergenerational work. If you are someone who helped with the community garden yesterday, and you're less sore than I am, please rise in body and spirit to be acknowledged. Thank you so much. I cannot tell you how blessed we are. Please go take a look at the community garden before you leave, and just know that there's weed barrier under all the mulch. It looks fantastic, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful, wonderful summer in the community garden. But I also have a story to tell you that might surprise you, because it surprised me at the time, although I don't think it would have surprised Reverend Joel. Once upon a time, I was an RE volunteer in a little tiny church in New York State, near the Adirondack Mountains. And part of my job was to find a second volunteer to be in the room with me each week. And I said, oh yeah, sure, I can probably figure that out. But it turned out to be very tricky to do. I would try to walk around during coffee hour and talk to other grown-ups. And as I've said, this is not a big church. And these were people I knew well. These were my friends. And yet somehow if there was a specific person I was looking for, they would just vanish completely as soon as I headed in their direction. And sometimes, and Annalise, I don't know if you have hands free. Can you help me demonstrate something really quickly here? Because this actually happened. I am not joking. Can you come stand in front of me for a second? Sometimes a grown-up would be standing there talking, right, like a relatively normal person, and they would see me coming and they would suddenly do like this. And I was like, dude, I can see you. That's it. That's literally all I needed. It was the goofiest thing I had ever encountered. And like we're talking retired ministers, we're talking college professors, we're talking like people that do really cool things and are really good at them. So I was very confused. So I finally talked to another volunteer and I said, are you having this problem? And she said, oh yeah, I'm done. I just sneak up on them. They never see me coming and pow, there I am. So she's still volunteering at that church today, by the way. So I tried sneaking up on people. And I'm sorry to say that it worked, because I don't really like sneaking up on people as a general rule, but it was starting to feel like a desperate situation. But when I finally did get to have some conversations with some of the other grown-ups, I couldn't believe what I heard, because what they said was, oh, no, I can't be in there with kids, because they are not going to like me. They are going to think I am old and boring, and they are not going to think that I'm cool. And I was like, really? It hadn't really ever occurred to me to think of kids as scary, because basically every job I had ever done my entire life had to do with kids, so I was just used to being around them. Sometimes I thought adults were kind of scary, to be perfectly honest with you. So I was like, what am I going to do to get past this? Because obviously, when we're in a congregation together, we can't have whole populations of the congregation that are just hiding from each other and just scared of each other. Like, that's not going to work. So what worked there in that situation was I started asking youth. I told them, did you know that some of the grown-ups are kind of scared of you? And they were like, what? And they would volunteer to go around with me at coffee hour, and I would introduce them to different adults. And that was the thing that finally broke up the logjam and helped us find some other adult volunteers that were willing to be in faith formation with us. And we're so lucky that we were able to figure it out, because some of you are familiar with our interfaith or multi-faith curricula that explore our UU sources, like neighboring faiths. And people would come in and share about their personal faith beliefs, and some of the things that they had to say just absolutely blew our minds. Not because, whatever, they'd been to the moon, and so they had a unique perspective on the moon, right? But just because it was stuff that we had never thought of. And if you think about it, the elders in our congregation have been thinking about this stuff a lot longer than our children and youth have. And so there are going to be times when they've got this really unique perspective that children and youth are really lucky to get to hear. So, some of y'all already know that there are ways to live into eldership no matter what age you are. Some of you have seen older children here helping younger children actually make it from the faith formation wing physically into the service. Some of you have seen older children show younger children how to do something that they don't know how to do, or even turn around and show an adult something that they don't know how to do. I'm not naming any names, but I've definitely seen that happen. I hope that you'll look for these chances all your life. And I also hope that all of us will look for the talents and the wisdom that the adults around us might have that we might not have connected with before, or that they might have been maybe a little shy about sharing. That will show our interest and our curiosity and our respect. That will invite adults. You all are invited into the makerspace and into the community garden, and maybe to join us in activities at the whole church retreat next fall. I think that a lot of UUs identify as what we call secular humanists, and that one way to describe that is, I believe in the goodness of people, so people are my church. And I hope that we will all look at eldership as an opportunity for people to be our church. Thank you.
This year, I will be eligible for Medicare as I celebrate my 65th birthday. I am the eldest daughter of an eldest daughter of an eldest daughter. I think that's a pretty neat thing. And the consequence of this is that I can actually remember not only when my own parents were my age, but also my grandparents, two of who lived that long, lived this as long as I am now. I knew 3 of my great-grandparents, people born more than a century and a half ago. I've had the good fortune to have a variety of role models for what an elder is. This is someone who has gained wisdom from their life experiences. It is only recently that I've come to think of myself as an elder. It's not a position which I have been actively seeking. It has sneaked up on me. As the family members and friends of my generation die, I realize an additional meaning for an elder. That is, someone who has outlived their contemporaries. It is not a happy realization. I suppose it means that I have been luckier or healthier or smarter or some combination of those things than others. Becoming an elder is no picnic. You have to have lived through hardships and difficult times without giving up or going crazy. It is not absolutely necessary for an elder to be old. There are wise souls who are still coming into their adulthood. Yet when we think of an elder, it is usually someone with gray or white hair, if any hair at all. I see some of those people here today. To become an old woman, more so than an old man, a person is stereotypically seen as vulnerable, less capable, unable to keep up, in need of care, and worn out. To be an old woman is often to be the invisible person in the room, even at, dare I say it, church meetings. Oh, people will deny this and talk about the wisdom of the honored elders among us. But we Americans are a culture of youth and beauty. Ageism runs rampant, even among those who know better. The stereotype of a grandmotherly woman knitting booties for the grandbabies is so ingrained, it's hard to see her as a Supreme Court justice or President of the United States. Marvel has not made her into a superhero as far as I know. Still, we're all moving towards old age at every single moment. It is well to remember that we need to avoid the stereotypes of the little old lady and the little old man. Sooner or later, if we are lucky, they are us. But here's the important point. We should give elders their due. They have gained insights. They have survived crises that crushed others. They have taken risks in their life and either won or lost. They know some things worth knowing, even about failure, which arguably teaches you more than success. If you are so down that no direction appears to go anywhere else, there is an elder among us who has been in that spot. There is an elder here at All Souls who has experienced whatever has you by the throat and is crippling your ability to move. No matter what the issue, there is at least someone in this church who has been there and done that and lived to tell the tale. There's also someone here who will sit with you while you ponder life's questions, because part of the wisdom of an elder is knowing when to listen and keep her mouth shut. There is no loss, no disappointment, no horror or sadness that is not among the accumulated experiences of the elders of this church. It is easy to forget that as we sit here on a pleasant, warm Sunday morning. This means that you're not alone. When you seek the truth and love, there are people here who have been on that journey for a while and can help you. It takes an effort to build relationships. Part of that is sharing our stories with one another. Ask an elder their story. Tell them your story. There is common ground to be shared. Lest you're getting depressed about growing old, which was not my intention, to be an elder also means that you know what it is to fall in love, perhaps more than once if you're lucky. That patience is the ability to remember how fast time really passes. That tomorrow is another chance at life, and that what matters most are the people you love and the people who love you. Thank you for your kind attention.
So I invite you to sing along at this time. This is Come Sing a Song With Me. It's number 346. It's not a complicated piece, so you probably don't have to have the hymn book once you get that tune down. So please stand and bow your spirit. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love, a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. We share joys and sorrows each Sunday as part of our spiritual practice, a practice of community, of caring, practice of our covenant to live by the spirit of love and to help one another. For our neighbors in the larger community, Ramadan comes to an end today. Muslims all over the world come together to celebrate a month of sacrifice, generosity, growth, and awareness. And that month now, as it ends, leads into, I believe it's Eid Mubarak. No, it's Eid Mubarak to our Muslim neighbors and Muslim community. This is an especially wonderful joy for me. Our Sarah Cannon has been working very hard the entire 2 years I've been here with you, studying, packing in projects, learning, asking me questions about Unitarian Universalist history and theology, and trying to fit that all in while being our director of family and family ministries. Yes, and I'm just amazed at how you balance it all. I'm amazed at how our religious educators handle all those little details. It's not a Joel thing, and thank goodness for Sarah. You've worked so hard, and you are such a joy to work with. And I'm so proud of what you have accomplished. So on Wednesday, her accomplishment was recognized by the Religious Education Credentialing Committee of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and our Sarah Cannon became a credentialed religious educator Wednesday evening. You rock, Sarah. You're amazing. Congratulations. And here toward the end of the month, we're going to just have to have a big party and celebrate. Yep. There are here other joys, other sorrows that we have brought that are in our hearts. Let us keep one another in our thoughts or our hearts, our prayers, our meditations, to be known for all that we are, and for sometimes the burdens we carry, or the burdens we have released, the joys we hope for, and the joys we have come to know. This knowing, to be known by others, is a great gift of community. It is a great part of that covenant, to be seen, to be loved, to be helped. All my memories of love hang upon high stars. All the souls I've lost to tears now the autumn jars. And the air around me here thickens with their song. Sing again their nameless tunes, sing again and strong. Many are the graceful hearts hung upon this tree, and it seems there's room for mine on these branches free. And the sky above the tree, whether wet or bright, is my ease and comforting, my good news and light. Amen.
This morning, our offertory contributions will go to Coburn Place. Your contributions today will support the Coburn Place to provide housing and supportive services to women and their children who are escaping domestic violence. patch or check into the collection plate. Or if online, you can go to allsoulsindy.org, where you will find a link that says, Give to All Souls here, on the left side, beneath the description for today's service. Be sure to mention that your donation is for Coburn Place. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission of All Souls, and for your continued love for one another and for this world. May we now accept our morning offering.
Been in ministry now for just about 31 years. When I was a younger minister, I was, like so many Unitarian Universalist ministers especially, very passionate about bringing more justice to the world. I grew up with a covenant very much like the one on this wall. Service is our law to help one another, to bring justice to the world. I felt very passionately about that. And I was at one of my first gatherings of ministers. This was many years ago, and feeling rather impatient with some of my colleagues. One colleague in particular who had made a pretty public mistake in his ministry. And I managed not to go on too long about in my judgmental thoughts among my colleagues. One of my elder colleagues at that meeting followed up by saying, well, yeah, you know, we all have found moments when we have in our ministries fallen flat on our faces in front of everyone. And so, Joel, will you? And indeed, I really literally fell on my face flat on my face one morning when I tripped off the chancel and spread eagled in my face in front of the congregation. Can't take yourself too seriously, you know. It's not really about us. It's about who are we going to be together. I was thinking about it again recently because I was at a collegial gathering again, a group of ministers, and there was conversation about our experiences in ministry and what we had to offer one another. And one of the questions was, as we were getting to be back in person together after these 2 years of crazy pandemic, we were asked to stand based on how many years we'd been in ministry. So, you know, in a room with just about this many ministers, how many of you have been in ministry for less than 5 years? There was a good, satisfying proportion of ministers new to ministry who stood up. Then 10 years, good solid group stood up. How many of you 20 years? Big crew of people stood up. How many of you have been in ministry more than 30 years? And there were two of us, me and one colleague who'd been in ministry for 45 years. And then the person leading that particular part of this workshop said, you know, we are grateful for our elders. I don't know if I've actually made that transition yet. I'm not going to make that claim myself, but that's when I got to thinking pretty seriously, okay, if I'm not there yet, I guess I would like to be there. I would like to end up an elder, one that, like so many of the good elders I've had, like that colleague 3 decades ago now who suggested that I too will join the ranks of those who've had learning experiences. Crystal mentioned that our culture is uncomfortable with aging. And I got to thinking, so am I becoming an old man? And I was looking up what it is to be an elder, and I actually came across this in other cultures, like Ukrainian culture or Greek culture. To be called an old person, an old man, an old woman, an old person, it's not a negative thing. It's an honor. It's a compliment. If one's especially exceptional, one might be called an old person, even though chronologically you may not be that old. So as I thought about it, who are the people I have looked to recently? Often I find myself looking to black women poets, black women writers. What is it to hit adversity in life and not just survive, but continue to thrive? Lucille Clifton is a black poet, and I've always been especially interested in her since I lived in Buffalo, New York, her hometown, for some years. And I never got to meet her before she died in 2010, but she's been an elder to me through her poetry. How to survive in tough times, especially. This is one of my favorite poems. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see except to be myself? I made it up here on this bridge between sky and clay. My one hand holding tight, my other hand. Come, celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. When I read first read that poem, I thought of my great, great, great Aunt Maggie. She was 100 years old when she died. She was born in 1872. She lived through 3 Great Depressions. Everyone called her Aunt Maggie because we couldn't keep track of the number. When you were just talking about Aunt Maggie, tracking all, you were supposed to do 3 great-greats, but my dad maybe 2. It got too confusing. Aunt Maggie. She had 10 brothers and sisters, and all of them had many children. And the children, her nieces and nephews had children, but my Aunt Maggie had never married. She was the youngest child and a girl, and so from birth she was expected to be the family member who took care of her parents when they had grown too old to work the family farm. And when her parents died, she then began taking care of her elder siblings all the way down. And then she got old, and everyone she knew and had grown up with as a young person had died. My father, her great-great-nephew, was her closest living family member. She'd always been taking care of other people, so she had no money. She was so old she didn't even qualify for Social Security. My father would take me to visit Aunt Maggie. We would go and visit for lunch often. The first time we went for lunch, it's just so vivid in my memory. Aunt Maggie she clearly loved us. She loved me, but man, she looked fierce, and she never smiled. Although, truth be told, she didn't smile because she was born in a time when there wasn't really much in the way of dentistry, so she was afraid the dentures might pop out. In her apartment, there were a couple of beautiful pictures. There was a table and 2 chairs. There was a bed and a dresser for clothes. And that was about it. That first lunch, she served hot dogs, green beans, and scalloped potatoes. And I remembered that. One of the reasons I first remembered it was because I loved hot dogs. My mother never served hot dogs. Green beans were always a favorite. And I had seen scalloped potatoes and sworn I would never touch them. So I ate. Well, I sat down I was going to go sit down at the table. I was ready to eat, and Aunt Maggie said, "Excuse me, young man, your father eats first." So she and my father ate first. I had to stand around in the apartment. My father finished. It was my turn to eat. I sat down sat at the table at the chair with my Aunt Maggie, and I ate the hot dog and the green beans and left the scalloped potatoes. And we'd been talking a little bit about life and stories, and she looked at me then and said, "Is there something wrong with the potatoes?" And I said, "Well, no, Aunt Maggie." "Well, then you should eat them." "I don't like scalloped potatoes." "It doesn't matter if you like them or not. It's food, and we do not waste food in this family. Now you eat those potatoes." I looked at my dad for mercy, like, "Can you get me out of this?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm not going against Aunt Maggie." So I ate them, even though they'd gotten cold by that moment. But I have to tell you, I like scalloped potatoes. I found I even liked them in that moment. They remind me of my Aunt Maggie. They remind me of how she understood what it took to survive 3 depressions, what it took to love so many people as she had in her life, and to take with me a kernel of knowledge about survival, frugality, and how to get along in tough times. We've had some rapidly changing times, things changing so fast. So just as we try to figure out how do we take contributions from our membership so that we can sustain the ministry of this congregation. My Aunt Maggie would have been all about the cash. She was skeptical of checks. Most folks, up until recently, really preferred checks. In fact, most of the congregations I served up until recently, they didn't even want to do anything except checks and pass the basket for cash on Sundays. Credit cards were like, oh no, we're not going to do a credit card. Venmo? A lot of folks had no idea what that was. And you might not now, which I can understand, because there's like Venmo, there's Cash App, there's Zelle. You put them on your phone. My kids have never written a check in their life. And if I want to send them a birthday check or something, I never send a check. I had to learn how to use Venmo so I could send them birthday gifts. Or in congregational life, there's those of us who grew up with mimeographed newsletters that came in the mail once or twice a month. And I always loved that kind of smell of that, especially when it was freshly mimeographed. If you're just a year or two younger than me, you probably think about email and the email newsletters that come out. We do one every week toward the end of the week. My kids, Instagram, not even Facebook. Facebook's for old folks. Instagram. Or if they're really young, they're doing TikTok. If I call my daughter, I am the only human being on earth she'll pick up for. She doesn't want to talk on the phone otherwise, if she can help it. She prefers texts. I've liked emails a lot, but my Aunt Maggie didn't have a phone. My dad would have been happy to get one for her. She found telephones rude. She said, I'm not going to put some contraption in somebody. I'm not going to have a contraption in somebody's house making bell sounds at random moments. If I want to visit you, I will dress up properly and call on you, knock on your door like a civilized person. So it's such a challenge just to connect across the generations right now. There's a substantial portion of us who are watching this online at this moment, or we're watching the recording of it. How do we keep in communication with all this complexity? I don't have a simple answer for that, but I can tell you this. I think there are fundamental truths that are greater than technology. And there are fundamental truths that are greater even than age. Marion Wright Edelman is a black writer and leader who has worked closely with educational issues for many years and wrote a book called Lanterns, which I really love, about mentoring, about elders, the role of elders in life. And she tells this story in the book of one of her beloved Sunday school teachers. She'd gone to a department store in the southern city where Marion Wright Edelman grew up. And she was happy, felt safe, loved. She was thirsty and went to drink from the drinking fountain. And her teacher pulled her arm and yanked her away from the drinking fountain. Never quite explained why the sudden, harsh, almost violent reaction from her beloved teacher. She understood later, of course, she was trying to keep Marion Wright Edelman safe. And not just in that moment, but in every moment, to understand there were some boundaries she dare not cross. Marion Wright Edelman writes about how she remembered that moment so vividly, and was the first thing she thought of when her beloved Sunday school teacher died. Even as elders, we aren't going to be perfect. Certainly as young members of the community, especially Unitarian Universalists, with our passion, our desire to see things get better. We're going to have our moments when we are awkward or even put ourselves into conflict or make our errors with one another. And yet there are whether it's technology that seeks to divide us, or just our passions as human beings, or even those who would seek to divide us for their own political or economic gain. There are truths that we find in connections across the generations that transcend all of that. Dr. Wright was another one of my beloved Sunday school teachers. I've mentioned him before. He taught the one Sunday school class in which I learned the scientific method. We studied things like chemistry. We did some biology. One Sunday he'd been to the slaughterhouse that Saturday before, and Sunday he came with the insides of a cow for us to continue to dissect. The DRE was horrified, all those scalpels. They were very sharp. I was amazed. I was just amazed. But my connection with Dr. Wright was forged most deeply from the moment when he had taken us to Children's Hospital, where he taught and practiced medicine. He was showing us how he worked, what he did, the scientific tools he used. And there was a liver inside a jar in his office. And my brother saw that, and being a Unitarian Universalist kid, he said, "What is that?" And Dr. Wright said, "It's a liver." He said, "What kind?" He said, "It's from a person." My brother's eyes got really big, and he looked at it. And he kind of put the pieces together, and he said, "Have you ever tried to take care of someone who died?" Dr. Wright couldn't say a thing. In fact, he had to turn from us for a moment, this room full of kids. And then suddenly he started to move around a bit, and then he said, yes, that's happened. And he was clearly very sad. But then that fire returned. He took the jar off the shelf, and using a tool, made a very thin slice of the liver and put it onto a slide. And then he put some chemicals on it. He called them stains, and he described what he was doing as he did it. And he described what he was looking for and why the jar was in his office, and how he wanted to help people get well, children get well. And he made a slide for every child he had brought with him that Sunday morning. I had that slide, the one he had made for me, in a box with other important objects, memorabilia, for many years. And I remember the fire and the love that I saw in Dr. Wright's eyes as he handed each of us one of those slides. That connection, that love, that passion has stayed with me in every moment when I've thought about what it means to be in community, what it means to be you, what it means to be loved. That light is in each of us, and that light has so much to reveal in the lives of others. We're not always perfect in the way we relate with one another. But as we grow and as we learn how important it is to keep sharing that light and to find on our journeys, our spiritual journeys, how to be on the road to becoming elders. It matters so very much. I would like to sing from that teal-colored hymnal. There we go, right here. Blue Boat Home. It's in the order of service, I think. What's the number again? 1064. 1064. I invite you to stand in spirit or body as you're comfortable. Though below my feet motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. Wide rivers is the ocean I travel. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edging water, casting questions into the deep. Lifting our ships to Paris, those beautiful lights in you, shining, bringing love to the world. Nurture them in others. Let the road to becoming an elder always be before you. Let it take you to places you cannot imagine. And remember to bring everyone with you. The love you have for yourselves and each other makes a difference in this world. Thank you for all souls. Take your light, the light of this community, go out into the world that needs it. Be in peace, go in peace, and know we will be together again.